This is the video. Today is Sunday, June the 14th. This is the video for Friday, June the 12th. And we're making it after the market has opened for trading Sunday night. You can see that the market's already down 1.15%. So there's a clue. The McClellan oscillator managed to bounce its way back to the middle line, back to the neutral line. The summation index is still over 4,000, but take a look at the volume, because that's really what we want to look at here. And the volume was non-committal. It was the lowest volume that we had all week. It was the lowest volume we had since the Tuesday of the prior week. So that's not very good. You've got the advancers still outpacing the decliners in number of shares traded, and the summation index, of course, nudged down just a tiny bit, but it's still over 4,000. So the oscillator went from being overbought to a little bit extended towards the oversold area, and we saw a bounce. But I don't think the down is over yet. I say that with a little bit more confidence now, because the futures are telling us that there's going to be some more down tomorrow unless something happens overnight. The SPX, if we look at the daily, we can just see that we had this bar that was fully contained by the highs and the lows of the prior day. But if we look at the week, all we did all week was just exchange one week for the other, and we're back to where we were 2 weeks ago. The big growth that we saw last week, we lost it, or the week before last, we lost it all this past week. Apple continues to be a great stock, although it did come down today. It was way outside of its Bollinger Bands, and it had to come down, and it did. Now it's within the Bollinger Bands and could very well tick up and move along the top of the Bollinger Band, because it's come down now to test the middle line, the 8 EMA rather. The middle line is this little green dash you can't see very strongly in here, but it's come down to test the 8 EMA right there. So I think we're going to still see Apple either moving sideways or moving along the top of the Bollinger Band. Caterpillar, after its nice pullback in my mind, continues and will continue to respond with the market, I believe. Home Depot, in other words, if the market's not going up, Caterpillar's not going up. Home Depot had a sharp pullback and finished on this doji for the day. But if you look at it for the week, we had this engulfing candle which engulfed the prior 2 weeks, and so this would be called a near range, or NR2, which really doesn't mean anything. But once we have if we had this candle overlapping 4 different candles, that would tell us something. What else have we got that we want to look at, because we really want to make this fast? Let's just take a look at the banks. And the banks, Bank of America finished at the top of its day. Goldman Sachs finished above the 200. JP Morgan finished in this doji. The XLF finished just above the cloud. US Bank Corp just above the 50, and Citibank found support on the 50 and moved up to the top of its trading range in the day. So that's good news. The banks are a safe place to be right now, but the S&P looks like it could be on its way down. And if we look at the hourly chart of the S&P, we can see the drop that we experienced on the 11th and the 12th, and just this bounce off the top of this gap. Interestingly enough, we do see buyers at the top of gaps. This one isn't closed because we don't really see, we have all of this range in here that hasn't been filled yet. The 50 and the 200, this is the daily moving averages on a 60-minute chart, but they are just sandwiched together, which I believe makes that quite attractive. So going down to 29.61 tomorrow would not be unexpected.